Welcome back to Naval Action, and we're doing another edition of the Port Battle Tactics. And today we're looking at the defence of Port-au-Prince, which happened about a week before recording this. If we look here, we can see the Brits are coming in from the top left side, and the British Alliance are coming in from the top left side, skirting the cannon range. They've got beautiful wind to eat B quickly and potentially even run ships over to sea. Whereas the Eastern Alliance is having to sail pretty much into the wind to get to the top of their first circle and try and engage with the Brits. And the person leading the sort of French, Spanish, Swedish, Danish alliance is Redii, and I've got Redii with me. Thanks for joining us, Redii. How you doing, matey?
Yeah, hi, I'm fine.
So this is fourth rates, so just looking at the fleet composition here, and eventually it's a 25 on 25. You're all Agamemnon noms, apart from one punter who's rocked up in an Ingy for a bit of variety. So how do you like to set up the Aggies? What's your typical setup with your Aggies?
I personally prefer Live Oak Stiffness
Yep.
and Strong Hull, of course. But many go with Build Strength too, so I think that's the basic ones.
And I notice you've got Green Marines on. Is that an aggressive position or more of a defensive position?
It's kind of both. It's a situational thing. If you see a low crew weapon or Agamemnon, you can build it, but
Alrighty.
you're not. Yeah,
And do you really focus heavily on stern rakes early on, or is that just situational as well?
yeah, just situational. I prefer to go for sides.
Yeah. And now they're hard to sink, of course, the Aggies, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty. Wait, I have the sound.
Yeah, just turn the sound down, that's no problem. So if we, while you're doing that, if we jump to the opening part of the battle here, you've got horrid wind for this port battle. You're more or less sailing at 30 degrees off the wind, which is about as nasty as it gets. And the lovely British are coming in with the wind right up the sails. So, what's your immediate thoughts here? Are you thinking about dispatching ships to the other circle? Are you trying to stay together? Well, how do you deal with this horrible setup?
Well, pretty much we decided to avoid the fight for 20 minutes until the wind changes the first time
Yep.
and do the best out of it.
Alrighty. So the Brits are avoiding the forts, which is the forts have got reasonable coverage at this. I must admit, I am looking forward. Are you looking forward to them buffing the forts, or you don't think they don't think we need it?
I think they are already strong as they are. The positional is a bit weird on some maps, but they are pretty strong right now.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So more position than yeah, the impact, especially in the shallow waters. Those things tear you a new
Yeah.
one. So you've pretty much maintained your heading, and at the moment, the British fleet can potentially either try and sail for A or get involved in a fight, and you're still waiting for the wind at this point.
Yeah. We decided to send 3 ships, I guess, to the right circle,
Yeah,
just to keep it, and else just get into a bit of a good position.
and are you trying to get shots on sails here, or is this still all about position?
As we were sailed through them, we tried to get some sail hits. I made a little mistake there and didn't order to take ball, so the chain hits didn't really hit anything.
A little bit too far away. So the Brits
Yep.
fundamentally end up sailing below you. You're contesting the circle on your right. I think it's sort of 2-2 there. The Brits essentially sail south of your fleet, underneath your fleet, and then really the fight starts to develop and the battle begins. So if we look here now, they've sailed underneath you and using the wind they've cut back across. So what's the plan now? Because it looks, I mean, this could go either way. It looks either that they could cut you and eat the bottom half of your fleet, or you could cut them. So what's the instructions you're giving out at this point?
At this point, we decided to make a right turn and engage because they were close to getting 2 circles, and we had to do something.
Uh-huh. And are you looking at snipping a piece of their line off, or you just heading in for the brawl?
First, we wanted to split them because they had 1 line, we had 2 lines. So we are more mobile than they are.
Yeah, so just to explain that a bit, what we're seeing is here that the Allied line is effectively a very long snake, isn't it? Essentially, you've got the best part of 2 lines made up there. So if you can choose the engagement, fundamentally, you're going to be bringing more cannons to bear, yeah?
Yep.
Alrighty, and so here we see the effect of that now. Oh, I've gone too far. Hang on a minute. Let me just find the. Here we see the effect of that now. So you've turned in, and if we count the ships there, you've got quite a lot of ships that can bring broadsides, and you've also managed to pick off one of the Brits, yeah?
Yeah, originally we wanted to snag off 2, but it didn't work that well because it was pretty much the first time we did something like this in the Swedish proper group.
And when you've got a ship isolated like this, is the goal to just pummel its sides, or are you looking at trying to grab a quick boarding action?
At this situation, because we are more downwind than the enemy, it's not a good situation to go for boarding, because then we lose the advantage of the guns.
Yeah,
So half of their fleet is not engaged right now.
and again, because you're downwind, essentially for folks who've maybe not been in port battles, this gives you a couple of advantages. It means that if you want to turn away, you're turning away with the wind. And if they want to turn away, they're having to turn away into the wind. The other thing is, of course, is that your broadsides are all elevated a bit, which gives you a better range, yeah?
Yeah.
And I notice as well throughout this battle that you didn't really take a great deal of sail damage, so you kept your manoeuvrability. The Agamemnons are fantastic, aren't they, for turning through the wind and the likes, yeah?
Yeah, sometimes they are a bit weird, but I personally don't like it, that they have the only 24 pounders.
Yeah. So we can see that guy has been completely chewed up by the front. You're now pulling off a second ship really into your main blob. And if we see here, the Brits are what? They're only bringing 7 ships into the fight, whereas you've probably got a good 10 ships that have got targets. So right now, are you bothered at all about the circles, or is it at this stage you're really focusing on picking ships out?
Many guys focus too much on points, in my opinion. Battles are still decided by kills, so we concentrated on killing someone or killing as much as possible.
Yeah.
Even if we lose A in some minutes.
That's right. So again, if you've not been in a port battle, if you have a 2-1 lead, I think it takes something like 41 minutes to take the port. If you have a 3-0 lead, it's 21 minutes to take the port. But of course, each time you sink a ship, it puts you 40 points up in a fourth rate, and it puts them 40 points back. And so you can quickly turn a fight if you can get more kills on. So you've got a couple of Brits here, and in fact, in the top right-hand corner, we can see that this captain's already lost half of one side. He's lost 100 crew, so he's going to either have to run or he's going to get killed. Now, if we move on a little bit further, because they do take a long time to kill these Aggies. So this is for me at this getting into the situation you've got your fleet into here. This is where you've essentially, unless the Brits did something remarkable, you've won the battle. And that's because you've split the fleet. So looking at the wind now, again, you've got yourself heading quite strongly into the wind. But what's the plan here with 6 ships to the northeast and a bunch of ships to the southwest there?
We noticed that the fleet at A can't get upwind to help them, pretty much. So we wanted to get into a war with this fleet on the upper right corner.
Yeah. And when you're commanding the fleet, do you pretty much do it all on your own, or do you have a couple of sidekicks? And what's if you do, what would their role be?
I like to have some special guys, let's say it like this. Normally we have a really fast ship in the proper fleet, so it's not all stronghold.
Yeah. And what's his
And
job to do? Is his job to chase down and kill the wounded, or?
he's boarding and fast, so he likes to get into boarding, and he can easily take circles because of his speed.
Alrighty. And how do you guys? I know when I was doing the previous one, I was chatting around this, but do you guys, if you see one of your ships in boarding, do you go back for them, or do you consider that to be a bit too dangerous? How do you like to sort of help if a ship's getting boarded?
Normally we ask if he's boarding or he's getting boarded. We help him if he is not in an upland position and he can't do anything in the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point here, the Brits are split, and like you say, you realise this, and so you start really looking to isolate and bully. And we see this. I think this is a really good picture of how to lose a port battle, to be honest. In the bottom left-hand quadrant there, you've got what, 4, 5 enemy ships who are completely outgunned. And to the north, your guys are a little bit in trouble, but they're not in close combat. And of course, most of the Allied fleet is doing bugger all between the two. So I assume at this point you're getting people to call out individual ships for sinking, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the guys who have got themselves a bit caught off in the northeast? Are you giving them instructions? Are you giving them anything to do?
Originally, they were sent to hunt the motor brick, but the wind was really bad for this, so they just kept on going A and had Black Crusader because 4 or 5 ships were in A, but they were really damaged.
Yeah.
So these 2 guys would have killed them.
Alrighty. And the what do you do when if you've got ships that are they're perhaps very low on one side, or they've lost a lot of crew? What do you typically do with your own wounded ships?
Either they go and secure a circle, or they just stay outside and shoot chain, or they provoke enemies a bit, so they get followed.
All right, so they
And
kite.
maybe,
They
yeah,
kite,
they
yeah.
kite pretty much, yeah, and drag a ship with full HP outside of the fight.
Alrighty. And you guys, I've noticed, quite like using the odd fire ship. Do you think fire ships are good value in the fourth-rate battles?
Sometimes.
So,
Yeah, depends.
so I mean, ports like Wilmington and Orinoco, which are the very narrow ports, they seem to be particularly nice, yeah, for fire ships.
Yes, if the wind is really good and the screening is really good and the defender is forced to spawn really inside a bay, fire ships can do really much damage because they can just keep survival on and yeah, hunt them to the beach.
And then if we just move forward just a little bit more, we'll see now that um, probably at this stage the attackers are feeling pretty good about things, right? Because again, if you're 2 points focused and you're not focused on damaged ships, we'll see here that they're almost halfway to target. Um, but again, we see here that you guys are in most cases bullying in the fight. So this is the wind has begun to move now. It's a little nicer for you to travel around here. At this stage, when you're 405 points to 90, is there a bit of panic on TS, or are most people savvy enough not to worry about it?
No, they are not to worry about it. The panic starts at 600 normally.
That's yeah,
But
yeah. That's when it.
yeah, but we sent one ship to B. That's the fast one I mentioned.
Yeah, so that's and what is that like a mahogany build or what sort of what sort of build do you like for those faster ships?
I trust these special guys. They really like to sail fast ships in Open World 2, so I don't really know, but it should be pirate refit.
And then the guys that you like to send on their own to circles, are they typically the guys who are perhaps a little bit better in open world PvP, the sort of guys who normally do the one-on-oneing type stuff?
Yes.
All right, so you send, if you like, your open water veterans. And so this is quite a good picture because this shows that you've got your faster ship there on the top right-hand corner who's snuck into, I think that's C. You're beginning to retake B, which you're because you've killed a couple of allied ships, you've got the bully on, and I think the wind is really now denying them getting back down into the circle that is A proper. So again, if you were to focus too hard on the points, you'd see that the Brits are looking pretty good at 5:30, with only 40 minutes, only 50 minutes gone. Now, would you send someone back to A at this point if it looked like it was going to get sniped, even though it's a slow sail, or do you just live without it?
I don't see a map right now.
Oh, sorry, mate. Let's see where it. Let me see. Are you on 49.14? If you just maybe move it to 49.14.
Yeah, no.
Have you got it now? Let me
Uh,
just jiggle it around. Sometimes it doesn't sync. There we go. Have you got
yeah,
them?
you mean the sea circle?
So the
Bottom
circle
left?
to the south, yeah, the circle to the south is that if the enemy dispatched a ship there, would you bother chasing down into the wind, and or would you give that up right now?
I would give it up. If they send a ship to sea, to the bottom left circle, it will take I don't know, a long time
To
because it's really upwind.
Yeah. So at this point here, you're bullying in the main circle where the main combat is, and then if we just run on 10 minutes from here to around this point, um, now the enemy fleet is quite scattered. There's a lot of them aren't doing anything. So what's the order now once you've got an enemy scattered like this? What are you focusing on?
To keep the group together and single out more enemies. Yeah, it's just a small snowball effect.
It is. It is. It's dominoes, isn't it? And do you have a couple of guys who will assist you in command while you're doing this type of thing, or do you like just to pretty much run your own show? Because I know that is a difference in styles between different commanders.
But I have Sveno, of course. He's assisting me as much as possible, giving us some advices. If there's a huge fight in another circle, then of course someone is commanding this one,
Okay, so
but mostly it's one.
you'd split your command across the circles. That makes sense. And what do you expect? So when you're coming up, so when you're in the combat like this, are you giving orders as to what type of shot to use, or are you expecting the captains know that now's the time to switch to double to finish people off, or now's the time to go with charged so as to hit some of the weaker ships at angles? Whose responsibility is that?
In a brawl like this, every captain is responsible on his own.
Yeah.
That would be too much to micromanage, at least for me. What I do in a war like this is just calling out targets.
Okay, so you're sitting in the map, you're clicking on the map, and you're calling off targets. Um, and one of the interesting things I think for the Alliance, and I've noticed in a lot of the battles, that quite often you're sailing with mixed fleets. You can have 5 Danes in there, 5 Frenchies in there, a dozen Swedes, and the odd Spanish player. Does that make it much harder?
Yes. In the scenario, we have 4 or 5 languages.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes the job really hard.
And is there anything you can do to combat that? Do you put people into like little groups with their own types, or is it just fly by the seat of your pants and try and get away with it?
Yeah, the last one.
The last one.
We have translators in the channel. Sweden alone can do German, French, Swedish, and English, of course.
Yeah. So it's I'm always amazed, mate. Anyone who can speak two languages, let alone I worked in Holland for a while, and the guys would be on the phone to one person, and then they'd turn around and swear at you in another language, and then they'd turn around and speak their native language. So although, and now this is the thing with the fourth rates, I think the Aggies are a little bit too hard to sync, to be honest. Even an Aggie takes too long to sync an Aggie. In this particular one, there's only been 4 ships captured, and that doesn't change. Now, when we first got the new port battle mechanics in play, capturing for a while, you guys won 3 or 4 consecutive battles with a lot of capping, but I've noticed recently there's not as much going on. Why do you think that is?
I can't really tell, to be honest. Maybe people just realized how to get out of these situations and don't be kept.
Yeah, so it's probably more the case people are a bit more aware not to get trapped in the wind and the likes. But this really, you mentioned snowball, and we mentioned this in the previous video. If you look here at this point, the Allied fleet's lost 6 or 7 ships. You've only lost 2. But because you've managed to pick your fights and you've managed to decide pretty much most of your combats, what we'll see here is that when we get to we move on another. Oh, that's not it. We move on another 10 minutes. And really now, this is what I refer to as the bayoneting of the wounded. You're picking off individual ships here, and the battle really snowballs. So again, we can just see from the score down in the bottom left-hand corner that most of those points you've earned there are from sinking ships rather than holding circles. So do you know it's won at this point?
Yes. With normally it's like one with 3 or 4 ships more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get a 3 or 4 ship advantage, then barring doing something completely crazy, you should be able to win. So at this point now, have the orders changed? Can people be a bit more greedy and trying to grab kills and the likes?
Yes. Yeah. They get greedy and they can pretty much at this situation.
So it's a bit like in soccer when you're 5-0 up, everyone decides to have that 30-metre shot. And we see here now, this is really the route. The Alliance fleet, the British Alliance fleet, is in full run. And you guys, I think, now are chaining sails down to stop people running. Would you let an enemy take a circle to prolong a fight?
We did once, I guess, against the pirates. So basically, yes.
I think as well. I mean, although they're bringing, so they're going to be bringing out, they're going to be giving us multi-duration first rates. What do you think to that? The 3 Jura first rate change.
I was one of the guys which bought gold upgrades to first rates. So for me, it's the same because the resources get triple two.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think
yeah.
it'll change the game a lot, having 3 Jura first rates?
It's maybe more guys will go with golden marines and do really crazy stuff, but
I think as
I
well,
think
if you also chuck in things like gold carpenter teams and toolboxes, I mean, carpenter teams make a huge difference. So I expect we'll see a lot more boarding, but I also think we'll see ships that last a lot longer, because of the gold mods people will put on.
yeah, that could be it.
So by the end of this battle, you've pretty much sunk half the British fleet, and it's only really cost you Oh, Black Crusader. I think I might have sunk him earlier today. It's only really cost. It's only really cost you 2 ships, so it's a lot easier defending. But as a defending captain, just if you can just go through the 2 or 3 priorities that you have in your head as you come into a battle.
Oh, could you repeat?
As a defending captain, could you just go through the sort of 2 or 3 priorities that you have in your head as you go into the battle?
Oh, well, I look at the map. I try to, if it makes sense, I try to stick to defensive positions, like force or towers. The first priority is always to get a better position than the enemy, waste some time.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, and you obviously, other than sending those 2 ships over to grab a circle quickly, you're obviously a big fan of keeping your fleet very much together. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I do is sending sometimes ships to circles, even if they don't hold it for long, just to force the enemy to send more ships.
And if a fleet came in, if the attacking fleet had come in here and they'd have split and gone, a dozen ships for one circle and a dozen ships for the other, would you respond by splitting your fleet, or would you try and smash one of the halves?
I wouldn't split my fleet on this map
Yeah,
because A is really, really good covered by force.
yeah. Alrighty.
So I would, smash one fleet.
Okay, all right. And is there anything else you want to add as we've come to the end of this particular battle review?
Well, I would want just to add that the enemy we had was, of course, pretty new to port battles, I guess.
Yeah,
As a whole fleet, at least.
yeah. Because I think this was one of the first ones where the Ahoy clan tried to kind of run the whole thing themselves. There's a bit of learning. There's always a bit of learning going on there. We saw that with the US. They took about 3 or 4 battles to get their guys ship shape. And how do you? That's a good point, actually. How do you guys deal with new players? Do you find in your nation that you have a group who are always in port battles, or do you look at ways of bringing other people in?
We try to get as many in as possible. You saw that in Santo Toma, where we got hammered.
Yeah,
We tried to get everyone who's there pretty much on the TeamSpeak and get into the pop battle. But there is a core group of pop battle players because we are not many in Sweden.
yeah. So you have a backbone, and then maybe try a couple of guys around that. All right, matey. Look, thank you very much for your time and giving us a bit of a clue as to how you do things and how you run things. I think tomorrow you're going to be a busy boy. I've had a look and there's like 6 or 7 kicking off tomorrow, so have fun there, and thanks very much for giving us your time.
Yes, thanks for inviting and have fun too tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be at work
If you
tomorrow,
can do
mate.
it.
I'll be at work watching Twitch bloody live streams in the middle of meetings on my phone below the table.
No.
And not being ready for any questions in the meeting. All right, Redii, thank you very much for giving us your time. That's it for this one. I'd love your comments on the video. I'll post this up in my normal places. And give us a like, give us a subscribe. I'll see you on the ocean, and I will catch you